technology, it was only focused on kind of the male industry. And so we weren't thinking of half of the civilization. We left 50% of the civilization out of the design process. And so, initially they said, let's make a pink computer, which would have been very, patronizing. It wouldn't have been the same effect. And so we said, no, let's work with this fashion designer, Vivienne Tam. We did an exploratory process. And in that process, the industrial design team that only had three shades, black, gray, and white, they're like, okay, well, we looked at her design aesthetic. We're going to design it for her. And here's the design concept. And we get into the meeting and it just fell flat. And so we were like, okay, this is going horribly. And Vivian's boyfriend at the time, Scott Krolla, who was an amazing fashion designer in his own right, he was like, this has nothing to do with the design. This has nothing to do with her aesthetics. She's about color and design and pop. And so, I kind of was able to be a bridge for the design team. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Vivienne Tam and the team. Like this design doesn't represent her brand or her aesthetic. So Vivienne, what do you want to design? What is the concept? What is the idea? And so she came back to us, and it was actually like a 12th century snuff bottle from China. And so, she wanted the computer to look like this ancient Chinese pottery. And, we had always been technology. So it was male dominated, for men, by men, with tech specs. And now we're doing a computer designed by a woman for women and making it look ancient. And so, the change in mindset and just we kind of turned the whole industry on its ear. And so when you look at cross pollination and cross industry, we would have never ever looked at a Chinese snuff bottle as the inspiration for the Vivienne Tam clutch. It would have never happened. And so by working with fashion, we were able to bring that in. And the economics of it were insane. Like, we ended up with only 4% of this mini product line. We ended up putting the Vivienne Tam digital clutch, on this small computer. And and with that product line, we were only 4% of the total volume. We were 51% of the profits. We made $24 million of the total profit, just on that 4% of that product line. It was the most profitable computer HP has ever made, and probably to this day. And it was because we looked across the industry to bring that in. And then we worked with other things. We worked with MTV. We brought in the youth. We asked for, the kind of youth audience, what would be interesting in a computer, and they brought us all of their passions. We ended up with, I think, 10,000 designs from 200 countries in a 4-week design contest. And so it really started to change the approach to the way that we looked at our consumer product line, by really, getting outside of our single industry and looking across industry. And then the last one was Beats Audio. We worked with Jimmy Iovine to incorporate a new type of sound into our consumer notebooks.